Hey guys, Jack the foster mom here. I've got a quick update on the Grimes case. I haven't had an update in a while because, well, nothing's been happening. They've been hanging out in jail and we've just been waiting for the next hearing, which just happened, and it was a request for bond. I was not surprised at all to hear that bond was denied by the judge. Remember, the Grimes were indicted on, I believe, July 24th for capital murder charges. And if you need an update, just go ahead and click on the playlist below. You'll see our extensive coverage of this story. So there was a hearing on December 2nd with a request for bond. And Circuit Judge Reed entered his answer, I believe, yesterday, which was Tuesday. The judge wrote that there is a presumption of guilt with this indictment, and that doesn't relate to the overall presumption of innocent until guilty. However, it relates to bond. He said the question to the court as it relates to the presumption is not one of will the defendant be convicted, but could the defendant be convicted? And if the jury reached a verdict of guilty, could that verdict be maintained based on the evidence presented? Judge Reed said if the answer to that foregoing question is yes, then the defendant is not entitled to bond. Judge Reed said if the answer is no, then the bond should be granted. Judge said based on the evidence presented in the hearing, the court is of the opinion that conviction by the jury could be sustained. The district attorney said that while the defendant's expert witness presented evidence that the feeding tube wouldn't stay in for more than a few days at a time, that the Grimes didn't do anything to help the child until he was basically dead, and that they weren't showing up for appointments that were scheduled, and they weren't seeking medical help. The district attorney said that the child died of severe malnourishment and that she's looking forward to trying this case in front of a jury. Mason Grimes' attorney, Richard Jaffe, gave this response. He said, I don't think it's any surprise that we plan to appeal the denial of bond for Mason. He said that Mason has led an exemplary life and is deeply involved in his church and community, and that he remains devastated over, quote, his child's untimely death. I will say that it's interesting he's calling it untimely if the Grimes defense is that his death was inevitable. Jaff said that they actually expect a quick turnaround on the bond following a quick appeal. He also said that Mason has been a foster dad to 17 children previously and has not had any prior complaints. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say that that might not be true. Based on information that I have been given, I can pretty confidently say that it would be untrue to say that there were no previous complaints. But regardless of whether or not he has been involved in his church or his community, we all know that baby Zeke has been described by the sheriff and others as skin and bones, and that he had lost so much weight. I'm not sure how saying, hey, he had all these other kids that didn't starve to death in his house negates the seriousness of baby Zeke starving to death in his house. Guys, if you live near Blount County, Alabama, and you have any additional information about the Grimes case or about baby Zeke, feel free to send me a message, and I will keep anything that you share anonymous, as I have been with all of the people who have reached out. Let's just keep praying for justice for baby Zeke and that something like this isn't ever allowed to happen again. P.S. I wonder if Brooklyn is still fasting.